Hello, Mishpacha, it's Courtney, America's Jewish mother. Welcome back to my channel. I am here today with an unboxing and sort of a book haul of a different kind. So I am, as I think most people who follow my channel know, currently at my parents' house over the summer. And I've been reading for the past week or plus Pirkei Avot, or Ethics of the Fathers in Hebrew. And because it is a book that is in both English and Hebrew, and I did take 3 years of modern Hebrew in my undergraduate years, I've been reading the English translation and then going back over the original Hebrew, and I don't know all of the words, but I do know some of them sometimes, so it's interesting to see what I know and what I don't know. And so that got me to thinking, where was my old Hebrew textbook, because I knew I still had it somewhere. And so I remembered that my mother told me she had a box of my books under a bed somewhere, and I asked about that because I wanted to go in search of this, which you can see that I found, which was my old Hebrew textbook from the first 2 years that I took Hebrew in undergrad. So this is called HaYesod, which translates to the foundation. Fundamentals of Hebrew by Luba Uviler and Norman M. Brosnick. And as you can see, it's set up to be read right to left, because you read Hebrew letters and write them from right to left rather than from left to right. So a typical page will look something like this. There's vocabulary at the beginning of every chapter. Let me see if I can find an example. Hang on. Okay, so here's an example. So this is chapter 25. It has vocabulary words at the beginning of the chapter that include price, statue, flower, light, truth, blessing, moved, lives, darkness, etc., etc. And then it tells you some grammatical rules, and then it has a story that is in Hebrew with questions that follow. I'm sorry, this book is literally, as you can see, falling apart because I've had it for so long, and it has been very used. It has been very used over time. So anyway, I'm glad that I found this so I can brush up a little bit on my Hebrew grammar, even though the grammar that I'm dealing with in Pirkei Avot is biblical Hebrew and not modern Hebrew, but I think this will still be useful for some vocab nevertheless, as will this chart of Hebrew verb tables. So that was part of what was in the big box, but I am also here to show you what else is in the big box, because it's in some ways kind of like a time capsule of my life. So there's a lot of books here, so I'm not going to say very much about each individual book, otherwise this video is going to go on for like 45 minutes to an hour, and nobody wants that. So let's go. So I will say that this box rather, has a lot of old foreign language things of mine in it, so don't be surprised if you see Hebrew stuff, French stuff, Russian stuff, etc., and then it's just got a smattering of other things as well. So I will go ahead and show you my Russian textbook. So this is Golosa, which I believe is maybe tongue or something like that in Russian. I took 2 semesters of Russian. It had 2 different books that came with it. This is also something I would like to eventually go back and brush up on, although I don't think it's going to be anytime soon, but I'm glad that I do know where the textbooks are should I want to go back and peruse them, because my Russian is basically non-existent at this point. I can read the Cyrillic alphabet and sound out words, and I know a couple of phrases like "Ya говорю немножко по-русски," which is I speak a little bit of Russian, but honestly even that's not true anymore. So Russian textbooks. I also have some Hebrew books that I got. For example, I have Harry Potter in Hebrew, so this is the Prisoner of Azkaban. Azkaban, yeah. So I don't think I'm sure I never actually read this cover to cover or anything like that, but it's interesting to have. Also have a copy of Hasatan Loveshet Prada, which is the devil wears Prada. Hasatan, Satan. Loveshet wears Prada, right? So again, a book that I have actually read in English, but I don't think I ever actually read this Hebrew copy of it. But again, interesting to have should I ever want to do that at some future point, like, I don't know, retirement or something. So, I also have a couple of books in Russian. This is by I.A. Bunin. And this is, I think, called Mitya in Love in English. Mitina Lubitz, or Mitya Loves. And again, because I only took a year of Russian in undergrad, this is not a book that I've ever actually read cover to cover. So I'm not sure how I actually acquired this, or why, when I acquired it, I thought I would ever actually read this cover to cover. I guess I had higher aspirations in those days. But yes, Bunin. Let's see, what else have I got? A bunch of French books, so prepare for that. I almost was a French-English double major in undergraduate. I think I took 6 or 7 courses in French, including French literature. But then I ended up switching French to a minor in the last year of my program so that I could take a year of Russian, because I was like, I want to learn some fundamentals of Russian, because I, had heard that it was very complicated and et cetera, and figured I'd at least, get some basics under my belt. So here's a bunch of French books. Just gonna go through these really quickly. There is Isabelle Eberhardt, Au Pays des Sables, which literally translates to In the Countries of Sand. I think the English translation of this might be Down in the Dunes. I'm sure I got this for a French literature course. I also have Dany Laferrière Pays sans chapeau, which literally translates to country without a hat. But I think the English translation might be something like Down Among the Dead Men, or something to that effect. And I believe this author is originally from Haiti. Yeah, it says in the back he was born in Port-au-Prince. And it also says he's the author of several books, including The Cry of Birds, The Cry of Oiseaux Fous, Crazy Birds, and Vers le Sud, which would be Toward the South. Although, again, I don't know what the actual English translation of these are, because, as you know, sometimes the translated title or line will differ from the literal translation of the title. And he lives in Montreal, apparently, at least when this book was published. So yes, have that too. Also have Chrétien de Troyes, Le Chevalier au Lion, which is the knight in the lion. And this is a like sort of medieval text. And I guess I definitely bought this for a French literature course because the tag is on the cover. So I'm sure that I read this, but again, I have no recollection of it now because this was an undergrad and that was a long time ago now. So. We also have Balzac, Le Peau de Chagrin, which literally translates to The Skin of Sadness. I believe the English title of this book is The Wild Ass's Skin. And again, this was bought for a French literature course, so presumably I actually read this, but I have no recollection of it now. So yeah, I mean, I think I could actually get my French to a level where I could read an entire novel in French, and clearly I have many possibilities here, and this doesn't even include the ones that I have in my bookcase in Athens. Some of those are shorter, so that might actually be a better place to start. But I think I could actually get my French back to the level where I could read a book if I had a dictionary beside me without too much trouble. So we'll see. Also have Camus' The First Man, Le Premier Homme. Also have Eugene Ionesco's play La Cantatrice Chauve, which is translated as The Bald Soprano. So this is like an absurdist sort of surrealist play that I remember finding entertaining when I originally read it, so this might be a good candidate for brush up on my French and see if I can reread this. Maurice Condé, Histoire de la femme cannibale, or Story of the Cannibal Woman. We also have Jacques Poulin's Volkswagen Blues, which, as you can say, that's actually the literal title of it. It does not have a French title that then got translated into English. This is a road trip book, and yeah, so this guy, Jacques Poulin, was born in Quebec. And then finally, in the French books, I think this is the last one, there's Marguerite Duras, Le Vice-Consul de Vice-Council. And this doesn't even have a description on the back, so I can't even tell you anything about it. It's blank on both sides. So there are those. Also have several dictionaries in here. You've already seen the Hebrew verb charts. I also have the Oxford English Hebrew English dictionary. So again, that will be useful should I ever decide to sit down and try to read Hasatan Leveshet Prada or something like that. Also have the Oxford Russian English Russian dictionary. And I have, I think, 2 French dictionaries, both of which are in Athens. So yeah, lots of language stuff. Oh, I also have all these old CDs that came with the Golasa, the Russian textbook. So it had all these exercises on CD, on audio CD, that you had to listen to and then complete the exercises. So yeah, if I get real serious about my brushing up, I could put these on and do the exercises. I think we're almost at the end of the language stuff. Oh, and then I have this little book of Russian, it's like a Russian children's book. Что я люблю, that which I love. And then on the back it says Ruski Язык, which is Russian language. So yeah, these are just little simple, this is like a simple children's book. So again, if I brush up on my Russian, it's possible I could actually read this kitty book, which would be exciting. So yes. Okay, I think we've made it through all the foreign language stuff. So on to non-foreign language stuff. So I have in here Eric Schlosser's Fast Food Nation, which I know was made into a movie, or maybe it was originally a documentary and then he wrote the book. I don't know which one came first, but either way, I don't think I've ever actually read this. And I have heard some things about Eric Schlosser in that documentary in the meantime that make me think I maybe should not read it. Also have a book by John Updike called Terrorist that was set he wrote it sometime after 9/11, and I think it kind of attempts to explain radicalization in some way, so I believe this might have been his penultimate novel that he published. Haven't read that. Okay, here's one I have read. This is Max Diamant's Jews, God, and History. I actually have more than one copy of this book, because I have another copy of it in Athens. But I did read this. It's been a long time, but I remember finding it quite fascinating when I read it. Should probably put this down for a reread at some point. Let's see. We also have the Living Talmud. So this is a different translation of Pirkei Avot, the Wisdom of the Fathers. So this has classical commentary selected and translated with an essay by Judah Golden. So the one that I'm reading right now is translated with commentary by S.R. Hirsch. So it might be kind of interesting to compare the two. I don't know whether I'll do that or not, but it could be interesting. We also have Basic Judaism by Milton Steinberg, who was a rabbi, born in New York in 1903, graduated from City College of New York, graduated from the Jewish Theological Seminary of America, which is the conservative seminary. Hebrew Union College is Reform, Jewish Theological Seminary is conservative, and I'm not sure what the Orthodox seminary is called, but I know there's more than one, so yeah. Got my Webster's New World Thesaurus. Who doesn't like a good thesaurus? Ooh, this one reminds me of my dissertation. No, not my dissertation, rather the first class I ever took with my dissertation director, which was a course on American pragmatism. Jonathan Edwards, America's Evangelical by Philip F. Gura. So Philip F. Gura, I don't know if he still works, but he worked at UNC Chapel Hill when I went there, and I took a class with him on early American Lit, so it would have been like American Lit 1, so everything before the Civil War, essentially. And he had such passion and enthusiasm for things that he taught, and so even though I don't really, like, I was never super into the early part of American literature, his enthusiasm for it was quite infectious. And then I got this book of his when I was working on a seminar paper for the graduate seminar I took on American pragmatism the first semester I was ever in grad school. And then Jonathan Edwards came up again in my comprehensive exam. So yeah, have this book of Phil Gura's. Also have The Lucifer Effect, Understanding How Good People Turn Evil by Philip Zimbardo. Philip Zimbardo was, of course, the person who oversaw the Stanford prison experiment, which went awry after only, I think, maybe 3 days or something like that. Not an experiment that would be getting IRB approval these days. Again, a book I don't think I've actually read. I also got, I must have bought this at like Borders or Barnes & Noble or something. Drood by Dan Simmons, which I suppose is a take on Charles Dickens' last book, that's his last unfinished book, The Mystery of Edwin Drood. But again, it's a big book. Haven't actually read it. So yeah. Let's see, what else is in the box? Oh, this is a throwback. Stuff White People Like by Christian Lander. So this used to be a funny website, and then I don't know if it still exists or not, but then they took all the website stuff and published it in book form, and I think added some more stuff in here. So so stuff, and really should be like stuff white liberals like, because it's stuff like vintage clothing and irony and documentaries and Japan and standing still at concerts and Oscar parties and threatening to move to Canada. So this was definitely entertaining. Might be worth a reread just for some laughs. Okay, I have more things. I also have in here Arthur Hertzberg's memoir, I think, A Jew in America, My Life and a People's Struggle for Identity. Again, I don't think I've actually read this book. So yeah, so this guy is again, I don't know if he's still living or not, he's a rabbi. He is a world-renowned Jewish scholar. He served as president of the American Jewish Policy Foundation, American Jewish Congress, and is vice president of the World Jewish Congress. So yeah, would like to read this at some point. We also have, yes, my copy of War and Peace, the Norton Critical Edition. So this is Tolstoy. I believe this is the Maud, the Almar and Louise Maud translation. Yes, the Maud translation. So bought this for a Tolstoy class that I took in undergrad, where we also read Anna Karenina in the Peter Valichonsky translation, and I think we read some selections from The Cossacks and Other Stories, maybe translated by David Macduff, and then we also read the Kreutzer Sonata, but I can't remember who translated it. I'm just going to say maybe Constance Garnett, just to sort of round out the, sort of knowledge of Russian translators that I have. But I really like that Tolstoy class. It was a great class. But I still prefer Anna Karenina to War and Peace, but probably War and Peace is going to merit a reread at some future point. We're getting toward the end, but we're still not totally there. We have Gregory Maguire's Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister. Gregory Maguire is the author of Wicked, that was the book that was eventually turned into the very successful Broadway musical, and Gregory Maguire went on to write a number of sort of fairy tale novelization retellings. I don't think I've ever actually read this, so yeah. We also have A History of French Literature. So yeah, I assume that's basically just what it says on the covers. We have, Let's see, we have Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut, which I don't think I've ever read. No, okay, it's not true that I've never read any Vonnegut. I have read Harrison Bergeron, which I believe he wrote. But I don't think I've read this book, so might have to read that. Oh, we have Pygmalion and Major Barbara by George Bernard Shaw. So I read both of these in a class that I took on drama in undergrad. I remember quite liking Major Barbara, and I would like to hopefully reread Major Barbara at some point later this year. We also have, and this is another book that I was like, I know I own this, where did it go? Isaac Bashevis Singer's The Magician of Lublin. I quite like this when I read it. Again, it probably merits a reread at some point, and so now that I know where it is, I can reread it. And we also have Scott from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, if you're watching this, Jude the Obscure by Thomas Hardy. So I first read this as part of an independent study that I did in my senior year of high school. So we had read Tess in my junior year, and then in my senior year I did an independent study where I read Jude the Obscure. I read, I think, Dante's Inferno, and I don't remember what else I read, but definitely I read those two things as part of that independent study. And yes, one of the saddest scenes in all of literature as far as I'm concerned. We have Jonathan Levy's A Guide for the Perplexed, which is actually the title of a book, famous book by Maimonides, an old Jewish scholar, but this is a novel. I don't think I've ever read it. Let's see. We're getting close to the end. We have Delta Burke's autobiography. Delta Style. Eve wasn't a size 6 and neither am I. So I have Delta Burke's autobiography. Also I have Dixie Carter's autobiography trying to get to heaven around here somewhere, but it's not in its box. So yes, Designing Women Representation. Okay, we're quite close to the end. I just have a few books left. This is a biography of Martin Luther called Here I Stand, which again, I don't think I've ever read, but it would probably be interesting. I also have a biography of Catherine, Empress of all the Russias. Again, never read it, but it would probably make for interesting reading. We have a biography that, again, I've never read, of Thomas Hardy by Clara Tomalin. So this would probably be, of those three, the one I would read first. I'm not going to read it anytime soon, but it's, again, nice to know that I have this so that I can read it rather at some point in the future. And then the last book in the box, just been sticking these everywhere, is Citizens, A Chronicle of the French Revolution by Simon Schama. And this looks very long. So this book is, let's see, before we get to the index, this book is, and we'll cut out the sources and bibliography too. This book is 874 pages? Yeah, no, 75. 875 pages. So this would make an excellent candidate for March of the Mammoths in some future year. So there you have it. A time capsule of books from my past. So if you have thoughts about any of these books, I would love to hear that, especially if you've read some of them and like or recommend them. I would definitely be curious to know that. So yeah, thank you for watching this. I hope everyone is staying healthy and well. Hope you're doing good reading whatever you're reading. And until next time, would it kill you to call you mother?